Just so you're all aware, we are recording now. So welcome everyone. We're really excited to have you all join us and take part in this volunteers co-hosted version of potential volunteers information session. We're really excited to be teaming up with the Hidden Orchard. We do a lot of collaboration with them, so it's made absolutely perfect sense to do so. Before we kick off, I do want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Wathaurong people and that we pay respect to elders past and present and emerging. For those who haven't met me, my name's Lou and I am the founder director of Food is Free Inc. And we also have joining us Ellen Burns, who is the president of the Hidden Orchard. You may have come across both organisations if you're, community-minded people within Ballarat. So we've got quite a few guest speakers to talk about their experience as volunteers. We have Keitha, Faye and Jill joining us this evening. So we really welcome them and thank them very much for being part of it. And also Virginia Wilson, who is the actual Food is Free Volunteers Manager. So Ellen, did you want to add anything at all to that welcome?
I think that's a pretty comprehensive welcome. Thanks, Lou.
No worries. If anyone has any questions throughout, feel free to pop up your hand or put something in the chat. Absolutely fine for that to happen. We're really sad that we can't be doing this face-to-face, but we know with COVID times it's prohibited a lot of get-togethers, but it's a big part of what we do is, that community connection. So it has been a very odd couple of years not being able to do things like this. Going into summer, we'll certainly be revving our engines up again and doing a lot more rather than online anymore. So we might kick straight off just with a bit of a rundown of what's happening this evening. We're going to have an introduction from Ellen about the Hidden Orchard, how it was formed, and a little bit of background on what their organisation does. And then we'll hear from Jill Boatman, who's one of the team harvest leaders, who will talk about her experience with the organisation. Then they'll be kicking back to me for a quick chat on Food is Free Inc. And then Virginia will run you through what's involved with being a Food is Free volunteer. And then we're going to have Faye and Keitha talking about their experience as Food is Free. Then we're going to open it up to you guys, so you can ask any question that you possibly might have a burning desire to know the answer of. And after that, we'll just do a thank you and a quick good night. It's going to be a quick game as a good game. It's an hour and we don't want to keep you any longer than what we should be. I think we're all over this screen time. I certainly am. So without any further ado, I'd love to kick over to Ellen and welcome her very warmly and talk about what the Hidden Orchard does and what wonderful contribution that gang does to the Ballarat community.
Thanks, Lou. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. We run an info night every year, and as Lou said, this is the first time we've done it online. So it's a little bit different, but good to still connect with all of you, and hopefully we can reach a few more people with the recording as well afterwards. The Hidden Orchard was started 4 years ago in 2017 by a group of us that attended the Ballarat Local Food Forum. And we all went to that forum from different areas. So I run a snack food business, that's why I was there. But there were farmers, residents, all kinds of people there. And one of the speakers that morning was Ingrid from Growing Abundance in Castlemaine, who are a similar group. And a few of us saw her talk and thought, that is a no-brainer idea. That's amazing. We need this in Ballarat. And so the four of us got together. I didn't know two of the people before that day, and we started the Hidden Orchard. So that first year, it was just the four of us running around like chooks with our heads cut off, driving around Ballarat, spotting fruit trees in people's backyards and dropping flyers in their mailboxes, and it was a bit nuts. We managed to harvest 1.2 tonne of fruit that first year, just the four of us. So it was a bit nuts. And so we decided that we definitely needed to bring some more people onto the committee and, get a few more volunteers on board and things. And at the end of that year, we welcomed 8 more people onto the committee. So we started our next season with 12 committee members. and split Ballarat into 7 different territories. So, you know, north, east, west, central, south, east, west, and made it a bit more manageable. Broke it up so that each of us was only covering a certain area, and going back and visiting the same fruit trees and fruit tree owners time and time again, which was an important part of it to build those relationships with the tree owners as well. So it's grown from there. We had a record harvest last year, despite COVID and despite lockdowns ending our season quite early. We harvested 2.5 tonne of fruit, over 2.5 tonne. This year we managed 1.4, just over 1.4 tonne of fruit, and that again was over the really uncertain kind of lockdown, non-lockdown period. So we're hoping to come out of the gate next year really strong again, because food security in Ballarat is a real issue now, and it has been for a very long time. 2016, it was found that 12% of Ballarat residents were accessing food relief that year, and that's estimated to have doubled over COVID. So we're talking about 1 in 4 Ballarat residents that are accessing food relief. You know, it's not a small problem, but it's one that tends to be quite hidden. It definitely wasn't our plan when we started the Hidden Orchard. We didn't know that it was such a big problem. Our plan was to prevent food waste. That's really why we started, and then very quickly learnt about the food security issues in Ballarat, and that became the driving force of what we do. So we have a really big volunteer base. We've got 250 volunteers, and pretty much every harvest we put up sells out, free tickets, obviously, but the events fill up within a couple of hours usually. So volunteers are not necessarily our problem. The thing that we are really looking for is more leaders, more harvest leaders, because that's where our bottleneck really is at the moment. We've got a lot of volunteers, but we actually need the people that are willing to kind of lead those small groups and be that one level up, I guess, to facilitate a lot more harvests for us. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for at the moment, what we're hoping to get out of this recruitment drive. We would love another harvest leader in every territory that we have in Ballarat. So ideally we'd get 7 new harvest leaders before next season. So just putting that out there. Yeah, that's really what we're looking for tonight. So I do have a general info flyer that I will put in the chat now, and then we've also got a harvest leader sign up on our website, which is our website is hiddenorchard.org. I'll put the link to the sign up in the chat so everyone can have a look at that. But now I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand over to Jill, who was one of our new harvest leaders this previous season. She signed up in our recruitment drive last year and came on with me as harvest leader in Ballarat East, which was the first time I'd had a helper in Ballarat East. I've been the only harvest leader in Ballarat East up until this year, so I was extremely happy to have Jill come on board, and she really blossomed into the role. So Jill, what was it like coming on board as a harvest leader? How have you found it?
Well, Ellen, welcome everybody. Thank you for attending. I was, the Hidden Orchard was brought to my attention from an article in the Courier, and I had just retired from paid employment, and I thought that I would like to do some voluntary work, and really picking fruit and passing it on to people in need very much was something that I would like to do. I contacted Ellen, and Ellen skipped me across from picking fruit to helping her out as harvest leader in Ballarat. Helping her out and it was fantastic. She mentored me beautifully. It went from helping her out to doing most of that harvest. Thanks, Ellen. but I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed dealing with a little bit of technology. It wasn't a big thing. The instructions for any of the technology is all there. It's beautifully set out, and I was able to manage that without any problem. I thought the invitations out to, or the tickets out to pickers were, as Ellen said, picked up very quickly. So there was never any problem with filling an amount of people that we thought we were required for a certain harvest. Meeting people was lovely. It wasn't very long before I realised that I would see the same faces at the harvest, and maybe one or two extras, which was just lovely to see. I live out of town. I live in Ross Creek, so I really didn't know Ballarat East very well at all, and it was a joy to me to find that that the people who live there have the most amazing gardens, and they have the fruit trees there, that they don't necessarily need the fruit or want the fruit. And we, as the Hidden Orchard, were able to help them out with the feeling that their fruit was going somewhere special to help the community. And also we were able to sort of tidy up a little bit for them. We tended to take the old fruit that wasn't for human consumption to other places, like the Wildlife Park and another wildlife sanctuary out near where I live, which was really a good feeling for me, because it meant that nothing was wasted. And I'm very much looking forward to joining the harvest again as a harvest leader in Ballarat East.
Awesome, thanks, Jill. I just realised that I didn't actually say the setup of the Hidden Orchard is we copied our kind of way of working from Growing Abundance, where any fruit that we harvest, a third goes to the volunteers that are at the harvest, a third goes to the tree owner if they want it, and a third goes to charity. But more often how that works is the tree owner doesn't want any. They might either be sick of that fruit or they've already picked what they want, and then often the volunteers don't take their full share, because it can be more than 5 or 6 kilos of a certain fruit, which, unless you're into jam making, a lot of people don't want that much. So usually how it works is about 75% of the fruit that we harvest goes to charities, one of which being Food is Free, which is why we're connected. We've been delivering fruit to Food is Free for our full 4 years. But we have about 30 charities over Ballarat that we deliver to, depending what the fruit is. Some charities can only take fresh eating fruit, some can take fruit that needs processing, or different kinds of things that we need to fit in with our different charities. But yeah, that's the basic way that we work.
And it's awesome. I love everything you guys do. And full disclosure, I've actually joined the Hidden Orchard as their secretary, and have for about 6 months now, or maybe a little bit longer. And Alan has joined our board. So it's been a really nice reciprocal arrangement. It just makes perfect sense to me. It's a no-brainer. We have a real issue with not having enough food in our baskets at the laneway. So when, Hidden Orchard got in touch with us way back when they first formed, I thought, this is a perfect solution. My worst fear is people coming into the laneway and actually food not being there. We have about 100 visitors a day. I started up Food is Free beside my house 7 years ago, and I knew from the get-go that it was one of those scenarios that it's actually better to educate people to be self-sufficient rather than handouts, because a very dear friend of mine runs a international charity aid, in India and all sorts of countries that are very impoverished, and her sage advice was basically do not do handouts. They don't work well. They don't stop that intergenerational, knowledge of, how to eat healthy, nutrition, and all the rest of it. So when I started up Food is Free laneway beside my house, I thought, yeah, that's, that makes so much more sense. And I just discovered gardening myself. I read so much about it. I had so much information. I just was constantly just telling people all this stuff that I just learned anyway. And I just felt so empowered by it and wanted other people to, feel the same when they sort of learned that. I think one of my first discoveries when I actually planted something and it went to seed, I couldn't believe you could grow hundreds of plants from that one plant. It actually blew my mind. I just was like, well, surely that's the solution to food insecurity. And, being very naive, thought I could, solve all the problems of the world. But the harsh reality is that, as Alan alluded to, that COVID is, certainly escalating the issue, and in Ballarat it is a real problem. So I get really excited when people want to learn and find out about gardening. The other thing that I hated when I first started gardening was that there were a lot of hurdles. It was very expensive to join certain groups and to actually buy seed and plants and all the rest of it. And there's a lot of hurdles, for people who might be, not able to afford to grow their own food or to have the know-how, and certainly not that intergenerational knowledge. So when I sort of worked out that actually this information is really empowering, and I just wanted to make it so that it's always pitched at a very low level, not a highfalutin level, it was going to really put people off. There's nothing worse than feeling really embarrassed that you don't know something. Especially in a group setting. So we have two sites now, for those who don't know what we do at Food is Free. I set the first one up beside my house because stupidly, charity begins at home. I decided what's better place than to have it on the doorstep. But it's amazing. We have about 100 people come through a day, which has clearly, risen since we first started. And I was very inspired by John, who actually was in Austin, Texas, who founded the Food is Free movement. It's an open source movement, so anyone can actually do it. He literally started off with a veggie verge on the front of his home, and his next door neighbor loved it, said, can you build one for me? When he built it, he put a little hashtag Food is Free, and from there the movement started. So he inspired his neighbor, and then it rippled down his street, literally went to the next suburb in Austin, Texas, throughout America, and then became international. And he started up in 2012, 2 years prior to us starting it up here in Ballarat. When I started in Ballarat, there were about 7 sites that opened up after the first sort of 6 to 9 months, and they all slowly shut down, which was a real shame. Because I think they realised that you needed to really get that community involvement, get volunteers involved. So I think that's been the secret of our success. I have a background in entertainment, events, PR. I worked at Meredith Music Festival for many years as production manager and had experience with volunteer managing as well. So I just sort of had that nous that you get groups together, you like the Pied Piper, you get them together, you get them inspired, you get them to inspire other people, and that's how the movement starts. And I think I've always gravitated towards those community, sort of very grassroots organisations anyway. I've had a sort of background in community radio and community TV and all that sort of stuff as well. So I knew, A, I had to get the word out, B, I had to get people to come and help out, because it's a huge job. And we're growing, and Virginia will talk about that in a moment, our real need to expand. And so we've got the laneway, it's beside my house, it's at 305 Ripon Street in Ballarat Central. It's essentially a very small space. It demonstrates how you can grow a lot of food in a very small space. You can come along, grab a garden pot, a seed, there's a seeds toolbox, a free seedling if there are seedlings on the stand here, and you can hopefully go home with a gardening book under your arm from the street library as well. And you've got a lot of information there just from one visit. So you can come along and be inspired by that small space gardening. City of Ballarat actually granted us land across the road when they said, how can we support you? And I was very cheeky and said, I want the land across the road to grow more food, because I realised that that's what we needed to do. I was really inspired by guerrilla gardener movement by that stage, which is, a worldwide movement as well. There's townships in UK where you can go and eat, corn at the police station and grab some mint at the post office. And it's a township called Incredible Edible. It's in Todmorden in the UK, and it's so inspiring. The whole town volunteers, looks after the space. And guerrilla gardening is basically taking over a space that doesn't belong to you to beautify and benefit the community. So whilst it's a little bit of green anarchy and it's a little bit illegal, a lot of councils do sort of either go with you or go against you. We've been really lucky with City of Ballarat, really blessed with their support, and Caroline and Pete in particular have been really great with that. Belinda Coates and other councillors have been right behind us as well. But I knew to sort of get the movement happening and make sure that people became part of it as well, so that then there's real ownership of these sites. And when they said, how can we help? And I cheekily said, we want to grow some food en masse. How about the space across the road next to the Oval that's not really being used? And away we went from there. So we were lucky enough to get Pick My Project funding to the tune of $130,000, which set up the infrastructure for an outdoor classroom. And that's where that kernel of we're going to set this space up as an actual educational outdoor classroom and try to get as many people through who can actually come and learn and be empowered by, you know, growing your own food. My favourite bit is when families come along. We had workshops with the funding of Pick My Project in 2019. COVID shut it down, unfortunately, but we ran 47 workshops and we had 860 attendees. So we know there's a real appetite for workshops. So we'll certainly be getting those up and happening again in the new year, which we can't wait to do again. That's my favourite bit, when you walk into a room where people are complete strangers, everyone's a little bit nervous and anxious because, you know, it's hard meeting people. And then people exchanging phone numbers on their way out, and, you know, people with a real sense of achievement once they've sort of created or learnt something. So that's what we're here to do, inspire and educate. And, you know, not everyone has to garden. I'm not forcing it upon anyone. If someone said to me, go ahead and do some knitting, I wouldn't be into it. So I don't have an expectation that everyone's totally into gardening. We do a whole bunch of other things in self-sufficiency as well. But we run the 2 sites. And as I said, we have about 100 visitors a day. We're 100% volunteer run and we've got 70 volunteers. So I might hand over to Virginia, who can tell you all about the need for volunteers. And can I just do a special thank you to Virginia for all she does, because this woman is unbelievable and we're so grateful to have you, Virginia.
Oh, thank you, Lou, and thanks everyone for coming. Yeah, as Alan I think said, it's not ideal to be doing this over Zoom. We'd much rather be doing it with you all in face-to-face, but yeah, we're all getting pretty used to these virtual experiences now. So thanks for coming along. It's great to have so many people here. We've only run one sort of formal volunteer information session, which Lou and I ran probably, well, it was pre-COVID, so a long time ago, with the plan to do it face-to-face once every season. So this is only our second because of COVID interruptions. So yeah, we hope to do a lot more in the future. So yeah, thanks again for coming along. I guess, yeah, I started as a volunteer. I know Lou from way back and wanted to help out because she's very passionate, as you can probably tell, about what she does and about Food is Free. So bit of warning, if you join Food is Free, you get pretty caught up in the movement. So yeah, I started volunteering. I had young kids then and I wanted to, bring them along, something to do to get out of the house, but also to give them, I guess, some perspective about what volunteering was. So we started as laneway volunteers, visiting the laneway, and probably back then there was a team of about 20 volunteers, I think. The green space wasn't operating at that time, and the volunteer coordinator at that time needed to finish. So I had background, I'm a social worker, but in volunteer coordinational management as well. So I offered to help out, and sort of has really expanded from there. So we're now, as Lou said, up to about 70 volunteers and with 2 sites. So it's a really exciting thing to be part of. And as Lou said, we're a grassroots organisation like the Hidden Orchard as well. So we rely really, really heavily on our volunteers, and we couldn't obviously do what we do without them. So yeah, hoping that we can get a lot more people on board. A bit like Alan said, because we have expanded so much at Food is Free as well, we're sort of looking not only for volunteers on the ground, but we're wanting to expand in terms of the structure of Food is Free and have some team leaders. So Keitha and Faye, who you'll hear from soon, are our most newly appointed team leaders who have been volunteering with us for some time, and Keith is leading our watering team at the Green Space, and Faye's leading our volunteers at the Green Space. So if you follow us on Facebook and other things like that, you'll see that we're recruiting for a whole lot of other team leader positions. So there's lots of opportunities with Food is Free when it comes to volunteering. So if you're wanting to do something hands-on on the ground, we have lots of vacancies at the moment, but we also have lots of opportunities if you're wanting to step into a bit more position of responsibility. So some of the team leader positions we're still recruiting for our events and workshops, which Lou mentioned, which will kick off again next year. We have a whole crew, or we're building a crew of people to do sites and maintenance. So we need someone to lead that crew. And with the Pick My Project funding and all the infrastructure that we've been able to build at the Green Space, we have a grow house, which is ready and raring to grow some seedlings in. So we want someone to run that, and also a compost crew as well. So lots of opportunities if you want to take on a bit more responsibility. A bit like Jill, you might come along and think you're just going to help out, and you'll be asked to sort of step into a bit more leadership if that's something that is of interest to you. So I think the really beautiful thing about Food is Free is that it's just a really lovely group of volunteers. So yeah, you can be guaranteed you're going to meet some really beautiful people and some like-minded people. There's opportunities to get together and really be heavily involved if that's something that you're looking for. We have a lot of volunteers that are inspired to join Food is Free, not only because they like what we're doing, but because they might be new to Ballarat and they want to meet some people. So yeah, you can certainly come along to our workshops, our working bees, which Keith or Faye will have a chat to you about, and just meet a whole team of volunteers. We've got a pop-up market coming up this Sunday where we've got 400 tomatoes that we're selling to the community, amongst a whole lot of other things that one of our volunteers kindly grew from seed for us. So we had a get together a couple of weekends ago where we planted or potted up the 400 tomatoes, and it was a really fabulous day with yeah, amazing energy, and yeah, about 15 volunteers that came along, some of who'd only just joined us the week before and really got into it. So there's opportunity to get really involved if that's what you want to do. As Lou mentioned, we've got both the spaces. So we've got the laneway and we've got the green space. So we need volunteers to help out at both those sites. So yeah, there's some very task orientated things you can do. For example, the laneway is very much about keeping the laneway tidy, meeting and greeting our visitors, looking after the produce that the community generously drops off. And the green space is more probably about gardening and doing things like watering and weeding and harvesting, composting, things like that. So lots of different diverse things that you can do. We also have jobs that you can do from comfort of your home if you prefer to do that. So looking for volunteers to help in lots of different areas there. And the level of involvement is really up to you. So the minimum commitment is probably up to an hour a week, and not even that in some instances. So, but we generally find people, yeah, can give at least that. So there's a lot of flexibility too. So if you want a very rostered or task orientated position, then we have our laneway where people are rostered. So we have a shift sort of system there, and the same with the watering as summer comes up. But then we have volunteers who do things at the green space where they have a task and they can come and go and do it when they want, as long as it's done. So that really suits some people, not to be set, you know, or pinned down to a particular time or day. So it's very flexible. And yeah, you get an orientation, ongoing support. You can buddy up with other volunteers if that's something that you want to do. As Lou said, we have some volunteers who come along with their friends and family, which is really awesome. So that's something you can do as well. And yeah, I guess at the whole other end of it, we have our board, which obviously Lou and Ellen are part of, and I'm on that as well. So there's also opportunity to do things like that if you want to sort of really step into a position of a bit more responsibility. So yeah, there's heaps of other things I could say, and there's lots of nitty-gritties about, you know, what's provided and things like that. But yeah, that's in a handout that we can provide you, but that might come up in the questions at the end too. So Yeah.
Beautiful, Jen. Thank you so much for that. We might kick off with who wants to go first? Toss a coin. Faye, would you like to kick off? And
I sure will. Yep.
thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Faye, and yes, I've been with the movement for a few years now. My story is kind of similar to Jill's. Actually, I was retiring to Ballarat, and was looking for some community connections. But I do have to admit that I'd learned about Food is Free before I actually moved out to Ballarat, because I had seen Lou on Gardening Australia, and I said to my family, I have got to be part of that. That was just too good to not be a part of, for a lot of reasons. The idea of actually food security and being aware of all those sorts of things, giving back to the community, was something that was really important to me. Meeting people of like mind was also really important to me, but also learning about more gardening. And I moved into a place that didn't have a very big garden, so I am a gardener. Being able to get out and do some gardening, get my hands dirty, do some weeding, do some planting, and these are the sorts of things that we do when we have our working bees. So we get up there on a Saturday, rain, hail or shine for the most part, and we do get our hands dirty by doing all sorts of things, planting, weeding, lots of chatting, and basically having a good time. In fact, Virginia just mentioned that we did a bit of a working bee to plant our tomatoes, and I was commenting the other day about just how much noise there was and how fantastic it was to hear the level of noise. And we had some younger kids, we had some teenagers. So, you know, Food is Free is an all ages organisation as well. And that's the other fantastic thing. So, you know, we want everyone from every walk of life, age, whatever, you know, there's no judgment about anything at the site. That's the other really fabulous thing about it as well. And I talk about it all the time, and I think my family probably get a bit sick of it, and they can't get away from me. So my husband's actually just been roped in to do some things. My daughter's just moved to Ballarat, so she's being roped in to do a few things as well. So, you know, basically we are making it a bit of a family affair. And I think we all, for the very same reasons, it's important to give back to the community and to support such a great organisation, all the other people that have come before us. But I just wanted to say something as well. Ellen mentioned that, you know, it's about food relief, but one little thing that I've learned when I've been up there is that it's a lot about food appreciation too. And people come in. I actually walked in the other day, and there was a lady in there, and she was on her own, and she was she said to me, I hope it's okay that I'm being here, but my sister just lost a family member, and I came in here to pick some herbs because I'm going to basically cook her some food, and she lost some of the food that neighbours have been bringing her in the latest power outage, and I thought to myself, it's about people also recognising that they could go to the supermarket and buy a whole wad of herbs and throw that into the recycling or whatever, whereas you don't need to do that at Food is Free. You can come up and you can take what you need and know that there's a place of solace as well. So she kind of used it as a bit of a church for herself, to take a bit of time out to reflect and to take some things away. So I thought that was amazing, and I've met a few people who use this space as a bit of a reflective space as well. So it's become a bit of a church in a lot of ways as well, though I don't know whether you realise that, but that's in fact, you know, I think people use it for all sorts of reasons, but many people use it just for a place of solace as well. So when I was doing the watering, when I was doing a part of the watering team, I go up there early in the mornings too, for the very same reason, that it was half an hour to get away from the phone, from emails, from, you know, everything else, all the bad news, all good news, but bad news mainly, and just do a bit of watering and, you know, smell the fabulous food and earth. So I won't rave on anymore. You can hear I'm very enthusiastic about it all. So we'd love some volunteers to come along, and we'd love to see you up there. So hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Faye. That was beautiful. I was testament to a lot of people who actually during COVID use the green space as a place to just deplug, and I did myself. I know I'd quite often walk in on people meditating in the chair, which was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really important to have more green spaces in, you know, central townships, you know, and you know, everywhere. Actually, if I had to have my choice, we'd have a green space everywhere and a laneway everywhere. Keith, you joined our team quite some time ago, and you've also had some interaction with your school. Do you want to have a chat about that?
Yeah, I think, has it been 3 years? If you told me it was 3 years, that has gone really, really quick. It's been a bit of a disrupted last couple of years. Yeah, so I come in, I started with Food is Free mainly as the school I work with. It's the students have to do some community service. So a couple of teachers, we would come down with about 6 students all up, maybe once a week on a Wednesday afternoon. And Lou initially met us there, and she'd give us some jobs, and we'd always finish our time there, our hour there, planting something, and there was just so much knowledge. And the kids really, really enjoyed it. So it was mainly year 10, year 11 sort of age group. And then that sort of extended into the next year. So I suppose I come from that educational sort of, you know, when Lou talks about educating students, and now I've tried to make it a yearly, like the students will sign up to it for a year. We come in on the Wednesday, we all come down in our little school minibus. We've all got gloves in hand, and we've learned about what to do with the compost. Sometimes we'll do some weeding. So we go into the laneway as well. We do a little bit of tidying up down there. And it's usually about 6 students, seems to be enough. But they really take a lot. Like we've probably stopped it in term 4. We've had a few disruptions in and out. But they take a lot of pride. They come down there and they go, oh, we're just going to go check out our pots, and we'll sort, you know, they call it this is our space, and these are our compost bins that we take care of. And it's really beautiful to see. And they look around. I don't have to give them many instructions about what to do. They just look around and they see what is needed to be done. And it's a lot of variety. We're outside, and we'll be there in the rain sometimes. We'll be there on a sunny day sometimes, and then we just chatter and in the bus on the way home, just about what we've been doing and what we should do next week. And yeah, it's really, really lovely. So I try and take the same group of students for the whole year. They commit to it for a year, and these are usually students that probably aren't really into a sport or are just looking for their little niche of what they want to do and give back, because it is an expectation with that community service, I think. Yeah. And from being a volunteer. So from that, I ended up becoming a volunteer myself and doing the watering and sort of giving a little bit extra. And then, now I'm a team leader. Yeah. So hopefully, with watering, I'll see a lot of you around, or you might email me, and I'll hopefully put a roster together. So I think, how many do we need, Chin? We need about 7, maybe. I do one day.
Yeah, I think we need at least 7, Keitha,
at least 7. Yeah. So some of us might double up, and there's zones and areas that you can do. And I'm not a gardener. I live with a landscape architect, so I'm not allowed to touch. Oh, not that I'm not allowed to touch the garden. Things don't grow under my thumbs. So watering's pretty good for me to do. It's pretty safe. So yeah, watering, I can handle that. But I'm learning a lot. Yeah.
That's awesome, Keitha. I think I think the gardening is the dream pick of all the duties, because you don't have to go out when it's wet. And it's really it's like meditation, just, you know, eyeballing all that green just as you're nurturing a plant. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a lot of appreciation there. Yeah, for sure. And it's just lovely to see that the students sort of really appreciating what, you know, we go down to the laneway, they sort of see what's there that's being, you know, handed over, and they'll take seeds home with them, and they'll start growing some stuff, and they talk about their seeds. And and I love it when I'm watering and somebody comes in and we have a bit of a chat with them as well. And yeah, so it has that really nice community feel. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's lovely what you've created. Yeah,
it's quite often the connection rather than the food, to be honest, is why people actually come to see us, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah. Thank you, Keitha. That was really lovely. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Jill. Also,
Lou, is it possible for me to just say one more little thing?
Oh, honestly, go.
I did mention that I am retired from paid employment, but that doesn't mean that as a harvest leader you have to be retired. You don't need a lot of time to do it. You don't even need to do it within working time. Or the administration or the organisation can be done out of time. Even the picking can be done out of the normal sort of employment time. Ballarat picking season is quite short, and it's over that time where, thank goodness, we get a little bit more light at the end of the day. There's not a problem of chopping along to someone's place and doing an hour and a half. It doesn't take long to do a pick. Maybe 2 hours if it's a really big pick and you you know you've got lots and lots of fruit. But you can do it after work. You can do it at 7 o'clock at night. You can do it on the weekends. It's not a taxing thing to do it, and there are lots and lots of people to help you out. So if you want to put your hand up as being a harvest leader, it won't be something that you'll do with a heavy heart, thinking it's going to take a lot of time and you won't be able to do it because you work full time or even part time.
Jill, what sort of sizes? How many people are you picking with?
Really, we only need 3 to 5 people. A little team of 3 to 5 people. A lot of the backyards are small, or people don't want a lot of people in their space. I did a pick by myself a while back because the owners of the trees said the trees were netted. And when I went and had a look, I thought, well, that's going to be, they're netted, that's beautiful, and there's lots of fruit, but it wasn't possible to get more than one person into the netted area, and they only had a couple of trees. So I did that myself. But 1 or 2, up to 5 people is absolutely enough.
And that, I mean, that's a good point. If people obviously are concerned about COVID, which we clearly have COVID, both organisations have got COVID safe plans, is that, you know, it's outdoors, which we're all craving to get outdoors, I know, but also, you know, you do it in small teams. So, and most often than not with Food is Free, you actually do it solo. So anyone who's got sort of reservations about, you know, emerging, and I don't blame you, I've got them myself, it's really comforting to know that it's with a small crew and, you know, full protocols being followed as well. Yeah.
And we don't care if you want to wear a mask, if you want to have your own space, we can accommodate that too.
Yeah, you can certainly spread out, which is a marvelous thing, isn't it? We might kick off Q&A. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any of our lovely team. Any burning questions that anyone in the audience has got? Belle?
Yeah, just on COVID, I just don't know what the policy is in terms of vaccinations. Do you need to be fully vaxxed to volunteer?
We, for Food is Free, haven't made a decision on that. We have a board meeting this week, actually. We have got the absolute privilege, and we're so lucky to have one of our board members who actually works in that arena. So she's incredibly well versed in it. And in terms of our spaces, it's open space. So it's like anywhere, like a, you know, park or a botanical, you know, gardens, that there is no jurisdiction on whether you're double vaxxed or not. So that's up to people's discretion, but we haven't fully formed a decision yet. We've been watching lots of webinars and getting lots and lots of advice, that's for sure. It's a very grey area at the moment, Belle, that we just need some legal advice, and there's no actual definitive answer at the moment. Ellen, did you want to have a chat about?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're in a similar position. So the Hidden Orchard haven't come up with a rule book as yet. Our season usually starts first week of January. So we've kind of been waiting to see what happens. Ballarat's over 90% double vaxxed now, or we're about 92%. So who knows, by January, I think we're kind of crossing our fingers that it's not even an issue, but that seems very wishful thinking. Yeah, as Lou said, and as Jill said, we're usually got about 5 people getting together at any one time outside, and we definitely have plans to have sanitizer and sanitize any equipment that's being shared and that kind of thing. We will be contacting the charities that we work with to see if they have any regulations that we need to fit into, and there are, we have equipment storage at BGT at Berkeley Square, and they have a rule that anyone going into Berkeley Square has to be double vaccinated. So if you are going to sign up as a harvest leader and you were going to need to access that storage, you would need to be double vaxxed to go into that building. So yeah, there's a few layers there, and we'll put our full position out before the harvest starts, whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah, and just in terms of events, clearly we'll be led by what venue we're in if it's an indoor venue. So yeah, I hope that answers the question, Belle. It's such strange times, honestly. It's, we're all for community health, and we are very lucky actually that we are a very low risk, both organisations are on that low risk setting. So we're fortunate. I know that a lot of organisations, not-for-profits, have had to do a lot of work in that arena, and they're indoors and around vulnerable people and at risk settings. So, but we're actually quite lucky in that domain. Did you want to say anything, Gina, or does that pretty much cover it?
I think that covers it, Lou. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I'd love to hear them. I've got a million, so I'm going to ask some, and that might inspire you to think of some further questions. I'm just going to play Russian roulette and go with Virginia first. Do we have insurance, Virginia?
Yes, we do. We have insurance for all our volunteers and also for our visitors as well. So yeah, that's something that's covered if you volunteer with us. We also have a lot of other policies and procedures, and we're working on fine-tuning the ones that we don't have. So including things in regard to occupational health and safety. As Lou said, we've got a COVID safe plan, like all organisations, policies around if you encounter any difficulties or conflict or bullying, things like that. So yeah, we've got lots of policies in place already, and a lot that are unfolding as well.
And Alan, Hidden Orchard?
Yes. So the Hidden Orchard is actually auspiced by the Ballarat Permaculture Guild. So we kind of come under their umbrella. So we are covered by their insurance.
Cool. All right, I might ask the question of, can I bring my dog to volunteering, Virginia?
Definitely. We have lots of volunteers, and we have some obviously a lot of our visitors bring their dogs, and there's a lot of people in the neighbourhood who use the laneway and the green space as their walking route with their dogs. So we have a couple of volunteers who never come without their dogs. So yeah, I guess we welcome family members and furry friends.
It would be very strange seeing Bronwyn in the laneway without Zach, to be honest. And same with Karen brings her beautiful dogs as well. Both Karens. Alan, it might be a different story with the Hidden Orchard because you do go onto private properties.
Yeah, we haven't had anyone bring their dog, I don't think. We have a lot of people bring their kids. And generally, when we put up a harvest notice, we will say whether the property is kid friendly. So there are times where it won't be, maybe there's not a fence and it's close to a road, or maybe the owner of the house has a dog. We often do visit properties with dogs there. But it will usually say in the harvest whether the harvest is kid friendly or the circumstance of the harvest, because we do most of our harvests in people's backyards, on private property, but we do public places as well. We harvest at the cemeteries. They're often our bigger picks that we run. We harvest all of the Ballarat cemeteries, and there are a few quite large properties that we harvest, one in Gordon, one in Buninyong, which they would be dog friendly. So if anyone really needs to bring their dog, let us know. We'll see if we can accommodate it. But generally, each individual harvest will have the description of where the harvest is and whether it's kid friendly and that kind of thing.
Excellent. Now, Faye, it's raining. Do I have to volunteer?
No, but of course, we all do.
Oh, the answer is actually yes. I just wanted to paint a picture that the unfortunate reality is that, and I do want to say it is a reality in Ballarat. Unfortunately, you do have to in the rain, in the hail, and sometimes in the snow. But we also have, if we know that there's some wild weather coming, we also do get in touch with our volunteers, and we don't have any expectation of, clearly their health and safety is number one. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to volunteer, but you've signed up to it. You've sort of, the responsibility and obligations of being part of a volunteer, and the reality of working outdoors is that unfortunately, yes, you do. but
in some cases, Lou, what happens is that people can adjust things according to the weather, and so that's what I think happens anyway. So yeah. Yes, I should have correctly said yes, but we are flexible with attendance from that point of view, as long as you do your shift. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Virginia, are there some volunteer socialising opportunities?
There are. Obviously, they haven't been very available with COVID, but yeah, because as Lou mentioned earlier, there are opportunities to work alongside other volunteers with Food is Free, particularly if you come to workshops or working bees, but a lot of the roles are working on your own, so solo. So we do provide opportunities, and the motivation for a lot of people volunteering is to get to know other people. So we hold an event every year in National Volunteer Week, which is in May. We like to have an end of year or Christmas gathering as well, and yeah, other things along the way when we can. So we've had an open garden tour where we went and looked at other volunteers' gardens, which was really lovely. So yeah, we do provide opportunities if your motivation for volunteering is to get to know other people. So, and just one other thing, sorry, I meant to add, people often ask what skills you need to volunteer. So you don't need to be a gardener, you don't need to be a green thumb or even interested in gardening really to volunteer with Food is Free. So I'm a bit like Keitha, not a massive green thumb, but in volunteering, I've sort of become a lot more passionate about gardening and learnt a lot along the way. So really what we look for is just commitment and an enthusiasm, and our main hope is that you get something out of it and you really enjoy it. As soon as you stop having fun, then yeah, that's when we say that perhaps it's the time that you might like to do something else, because we want volunteers to come and feel joy in what they're doing. So it shouldn't be something that you feel is a chore or becomes, difficult. So yeah,
the reality is that, volunteerism sometimes has its lifespan, and we don't have an expectation that once you join, you have to be with us forever. Quite the opposite. If you feel like you need to go and, loan your passion and skills to another organisation, or just give up on volunteering for a little while, or you've got life circumstances that you're not able to help us out, we're very, understanding in that department. Alan, the opportunity for some socialising with the Hidden Orchard?
Well, that's huge with the Hidden Orchard. I would say that that's probably half of it. Because our harvests are 5-6 people, it's kind of the perfect group size to be able to meet other like-minded people and have a bit of a chat while you're harvesting, because you're picking fruit, so you're physically busy, but your mouth's not busy, so you can have a bit of a chat. This last season, this year, we had a lot of people coming to harvests purely for the social element. So there are a couple of people that Jill and I met in our East harvests that had moved to Ballarat during COVID, you know, single middle-aged women lived by themselves, so hadn't actually been able to get out and meet anybody in Ballarat. You know, they had lived in Ballarat for the two women separately I'm thinking of, didn't know each other. I'm grouping them so they sound related, completely unrelated, two different harvests. But they had both lived in Ballarat for 6 to 9 months and had no social contact whatsoever until coming to our harvest. So one of them didn't even want to take any fruit. She was really just there for the social interaction and to get outside and feel connected with the community. And it's a really good way of doing that, because we're going into people's backyards as well, so it's often quite intimate. We've often got the tree owner there having a chat to us about their house or their garden. We've got a lot of elderly residents that aren't physically able to pick the fruit themselves, and they usually have a good story about the history of the house, or, you know, that kind of thing. So the social element is huge. Yeah, it's a big part of what we do. And I think what Jen was saying about the things that you need to volunteer is a really important point. For our harvest leaders, we do require the harvest leaders to be quite physically able, because you need to be carrying boxes of fruit and equipment and that kind of thing. But in general, for our volunteers, you know, we have kids often, we have people of all ages and abilities. We collect fruit off the ground to take to the wildlife park, so you don't need to climb up on a ladder if you're not comfortable with that. Or we have other volunteers, got one in mind that's a painter, and he likes to get on the very top step of the ladder and basically climb into the tree. And, you know, so all variations of abilities and ages. What Jill said about the scheduling is really important as well. Often people say, oh, I couldn't be a harvest leader because you know, I work during the week, or I work on weekends, or I've got young kids, or, you know, all that kind of thing. If you join as a harvest leader, you organise the harvests that you lead, so they can be completely within your schedule, whatever that might be. Personally, I work at the farmers markets on Saturdays, so I never run a harvest on a weekend. For me, it's usually weekday mornings or evenings to catch people after work. So entirely up to the harvest leader there. Yeah, super flexible.
You have to have, yeah, flexibility with volunteerism. We're very aware of that too. Does anyone else have any other questions out there at all? Fantastic. Well, sorry.
Questions in the chat also.
Oh, yes.
Is a bit nervous of talking on camera or anything.
Oh, absolutely. You're very welcome to pop it in the chat if you've got a burning question, and if not, feel very free to get in contact. In the chat, I've just put down all of our website and social media handles as well. So foodisfree.com.au. The Hidden Orchard is hiddenorchard.org. You can find Hidden Orchard on Facebook and Instagram, same with Food is Free Laneway Ballarat. If you're keen to contact Virginia directly, it's volunteer@foodisfree.com.au. Ask her many questions if you're still a bit curious as to how it all works. And as she sort of alluded, there's no expectation of you coming with skills. You can get trained. That's what it's all about. And that's clearly what it's all about, empowering people with new knowledge and information and connection. And that's exactly what we thrive on. It's exactly what we love to do with our community. So if anyone doesn't have any other questions, I wanted to thank very much Jill for having a chat about her experience as a Hidden Orchard leader. Really insightful chat about your experiences. Thank you. And to Keitha, who's had to whiz off to a meeting. She's in Zoom land somewhere else. Thank you for her time, and also very much to Faye for her insights into what she does for us as well as a newly elected team leader and a volunteer herself. And Virginia, thank you so much for many years of service, and you're just so perfect for the role because you've got a real rapport with people, and I know that you've got incredible patience, and Look, when it comes to volunteering and it comes to anything to do with not-for-profits, there's a saying that you have to ask people 8 times before they do one thing. And I know that's part of the role. It is being pesky and just constantly politely tugging on people's sleeves that they finally find the time to do what they have promised they will do. It's part and parcel of, you know, what community organisations are all about. But gosh, we'd be really stuck, I think, in Ballarat without organisations like the Hidden Orchard and what we do at Food is Free. We know how dire it is out there. We get to see it every single day in the laneway. It still blows my mind, the calibre of people that come through that you really, and not to say that everyone comes just in need. A lot of people come for conversation. They just come for the sheer delight and enjoyment of nutrition, which is fantastic. Which we encourage. Ballarat has a really low rate of vegetable intake. Only 6.4% of our population take in the required daily intake, which is terribly low, and it's quite low compared to the other regions in regional towns in Ballarat as well. So it's a real issue. We hate food waste, and I love the fact that the Hidden Orchard and Food is Free can team up to, you know, solve a few of those problems and inspire and educate people on how to take better care of themselves. And, you know, the impact and joy of community organisations is, you know, it's a mighty thing, and my life certainly has been changed from it. My connections with my community now, it's like, you know, sometimes I think I know every single neighbour in the neighbourhood now, but, you know, I came from living in inner city Melbourne for 20 years without not knowing the person across the you know, apartment threshold and barely even waving to each other. It's made me feel a lot more connected to community. So thank you so much for your time. Ellen, did you want to add anything at the end there?
I think we may have covered everything. Hopefully, if people have any questions yet, just get in contact with us on Facebook and or sign up via the website. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and thanks everyone that's spoken tonight. It's been great.
It's brilliant. We have recorded it, so we will be able to play it for future, which is wonderful. And I might stop that recording now.